Some workmen digging on the banks of the river Ribble at Curedale near Preston in Lancashire found a large decaying wooden chest bound with bands of iron and lined with lead. Spilling out from the chest were rings, amulets, chains, jewelry, silver ingots weighing over 25 kilograms, and thousands of coins from the Saxon and Viking world. The collection is now on view in the British Museum, London. Evidence such as this helps anyone studying or those just interested in history build up a picture of what life was like in Viking Britain.
Oh, well done, Alexandra. So in May, we're talking about 1840 here, so this was a long time ago. Some workmen at the time were digging in the banks of the river Ribble, which is in Preston, Lancashire. Preston is up north, by the way, in a county called Lancashire. And they found a large wooden chest in slightly bad condition, because obviously it must have been very old. And it had bands of iron, and it was lined with lead. Lead is like very strong metal. And spilling out from the chest were rings that go on your finger, armlets, so like jewelry that kind of you put on around your arms. Silver ingots weighing over 25 kilograms. That's a lot of weight, 25 kilograms, and thousands of coins from the Saxon and Viking world. Now, this particular collection of this treasure that was found in 1840 is now in the British Museum in London. Now, it says that evidence such as this helps anyone studying or those interested in history build up a picture of what life was actually like during the Viking era. Okay, thank you, Alexandra. Just going to go on to the next section. We'll get somebody else to read this bit. Let's get Elena.
Hello.
Hi, Elena. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Museums should be free for everyone to use. Museums should be free to the general public and funded by the government by collecting taxes. Museums are a public service offered to everyone and not just for those that can afford it. If a charge is levied, fewer people would visit museums. Fewer people would mean less work to be done and people may lose jobs. It is an important part of education to make people aware of their own past. It is not fair to deny access to the education offered by museums to people who are unfortunately out of work and therefore cannot afford to go. Big cities such as London are very expensive to visit, so it is only right to have some attractions that are free for poor families to visit. Because they are free, we have some of the most popular museums in the world. Attendance has doubled in the last 10 years since free admissions was introduced. Whether you're rich or poor, the door should always be open. The collections are held in trust for everyone to enjoy. Young people are often inspired to study history following an exciting school trip to a museum. Free museums are good for the tourist industry. They make places such as London, York, or Chester a welcoming place to visit, creating jobs for people who work in restaurants and hotels. Money not taken at the entrance can often be made up by the money spent voluntarily in the museum, gift shop, or coffee shop. 8 out of the top 10 visitor attractions in Britain are national museums. Free museums entry is a sign of civilized culture. People out of work, fed up of tirelessly looking for a job, can have their spirits raised by taking some time off and visiting a free museum.
Very good. So we just looked at reasons why museums should be free for everyone. And some of the reasons that we've got given that Elena just read out is because it should be, well, the argument is that the museum should be funded by the government through collecting taxes from people. It's a public service, which means it should be offered to everyone and not those people who can just afford it. It's also educational. It's to do with education. And education should not be denied to anybody. Education should be a free service for everyone, whether you're rich or poor, young or old. And if you were to introduce payment or ticketing system at museums, fewer people would mean less work to be done, and people may lose their jobs. And some of these museums could ultimately, possibly, even close down. Right now, I think it was, there's a place in London, in central London. In fact, I was reading the news. There's a place in central London called Tower of London. I'm not sure if anybody's actually been to the Tower of London in central London. And in the Tower of London, because of the coronavirus, a lot of, the number of visitors to the attraction has gone down massively. And that's affected the Tower of London in terms of how much money it's making as well. Especially the birds that are there as well. So there's something that you can read up on afterwards. But if you start charging people money in difficult situations, there'll be less visitors coming in, which means the people who work there, they could ultimately possibly even lose their jobs because there's not enough money to pay them. So if museums are free, there'll be more people going in. We've seen this from the text, whereby some of the museums, popular museums that were turned to be free, attendance doubled in the past 10 years. Whether you're rich or poor, a door should always be open for everyone. Young people are often inspired to study history because of their trips to museums. So for example, if you're really interested in dinosaurs, for example, fossils, and you want to become an archaeologist, say, for example, then it's likely you're probably going to go to a museum, or you want to go to a museum to actually see the historical artifacts there. So that's an example for you as well. Free museums are really good for tourists because remember, the UK as a nation, as a country, London in particular, we have millions of tourists that come in every single year, and it drives the tourists into these museums as well. And when these tourists come into London and other areas of the country, they actually spend money, and that money then filters down to businesses and people who work in certain cafes maybe, or restaurants, or in these museums. So all in all, it helps the economy at the same time. 8 out of the top 10 visitor attractions in Britain are national museums. And free museum entry is a sign of a civilized culture. In other words, that means that you're quite advanced as a country if you offer free museums to the public. People out of work, fed up of looking for jobs, can have their spirits raised by taking some time off by just visiting a museum. So for example, if you're really busy and you've had a stressful month or week, you can always go for an outing with your family. And what better place to possibly go than a museum? Okay. Thank you for that, Elena. I'm going to have somebody else reading the second section. So let's go to Mide. Hello, Mide.
Hello. Hello.
Are you well?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you.
Very good. Okay, go ahead.
Museums must be paid for by everyone that uses them. The government is spending far more than it is collecting in taxes paid by the people in work. If this goes on, the country will become bankrupt. One way for the government to save money is to stop paying for museum buildings and staff. Many people are out of work and need homes to live in. Surely the money that is available to government must be spent on caring for people who find themselves in this position before spending on luxurious such as museums. Museums could survive by selling off some of the most valuable exhibits. Such items could be sent to auction houses and sold to buyers from any part of the world. Museums could survive by charging for admission. After all, virtually all other attractions such as the cinema, bowling alleys, swimming pools, etc. have to do this to make ends meet. People who are in work can easily afford to visit a museum if they wish. It is hard luck for those that do not have a job. They should be looking for work and not looking around museums instead. Alternatively, high charges could be made to those in work to make it possible for pensioners and those not in work to visit museums for free. Possibly the less popular museums in small towns could be closed and sold off to pay for the more popular museums in big cities such as London. To get repeat visitors, museums need to keep adding to and updating their collections, especially as more and more evidence about the past keeps being discovered. Admission charges could help to pay for those improvements. Other countries charge for museum admissions. For example, if you go to New York to see Picasso's Les Demoiselles d'Avignon at the Museum of Modern Art, it will cost you $25.
Okay, thanks for that, Mide. So museums must be paid for by everyone that uses them. So can you see there are two debates there, two arguments? And this topic is all about debates and English language. So the government is spending, right now we're looking at the other argument whereby museums must be paid for by everybody. So the government is spending far more than it's collecting in taxes. And that's true. I agree with that because in this country, the government spends much more than they actually collect from taxes from people. So how do you pay tax? Well, when you work and you have a job, then automatically at the end of the month when you get your salary or your wages, then the employer or the business cuts the tax off automatically, and that money then goes to the government. And businesses, people who have their own businesses, they also have to pay tax as well at the end of certain times of the year. But the reason why this government in particular, spends more than they actually collect in tax is because they're constantly taking out loans. So, Alexandra, this country is deeply in debt along with a lot of other countries, and they don't collect enough tax. So, argument is one way for the government to save money is to stop paying for museum buildings and staff. And customers, tourists, should actually contribute money for museums. Many people are out of work and need homes to live in. Surely the money that is available to government must be spent on caring for people who find themselves in this position before spending on luxuries such as museums. Do you think it's more important to be spending money by the country on museums, or is it more important looking after elderly people in this country who probably don't have anybody to fend for themselves? Is it more important to spend money on museums, or is it more important to spend money on education in schools? So museums could possibly survive on selling off some of the valuable exhibits that they have. But the problem with that is that if they were to sell some exhibits, how long can they actually use that money for? And if they sold the most popular exhibits, then who would want to come to the museum in the first place? because you have nothing to show, or very little in this case. Museums could charge for admissions. After all, virtually all other attractions such as cinema, bowling alleys, swimming pools, they all charge for service. None of them are really free. People who are in work can afford to visit museums if they wish, because they can afford it. And higher charges could be made to those in work to make it possible for pensioners and those not in work to go to museums for free. So people who are working, who can afford it, they should pay. For people who can't afford it, such as people who are not working, who don't have an income, or maybe the pensioners that have very little income coming in. That could be an argument, maybe. And to get repeat visitors, museums need to keep adding to and updating their collections, especially as more and more evidence about by the past keeps being discovered. So the more you find in terms of excavations in the world, the more you have to put into museums. So if you were to go to see Picasso's particular paintings and modern art in New York, you would have to pay $25. It's not free. And that's how the museum actually funds itself and keeps the staff going and pays for the building and the cleaners and everything else that goes with it. Okay, so there's no right or wrong answer. It's just a debate. But first of all, before we go into the questions, I'd like to know that who here has actually visited a museum? And let's go to some of you and get some feedback. Just press the button, by the way, your hand. Rather than raising your hand, just press the button on your screen. Everybody's screen is slightly different. Can you see the button somewhere on your screen where you can raise your hand? Don't worry, take a risk. Or it's a clap or thumbs up or anything like that. I don't mind, so long as it's a signal. Okay. So I'll go to those people who haven't raised their hands to find out why they haven't been to a museum yet, shall I? Let's go to Farhana first. Hi, hi, hold on. Jessica?
Hi.
Hi there. You okay? Have you been to a museum?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Somewhere in London.
Do you know what that museum was about and what you kind of saw there?
No.
You can't remember anything in that museum? Was that a long time ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And Farhana, while you're here as well, have you been to a museum?
Yes,
What kind of museum did you go to?
we went to the Science Museum in London and the Natural History Museum in London.
Oh, wow. Okay. And what did you see there?
Well, my little brother likes dinosaurs, so we went to see the dinosaurs.
And was that at the Natural History Museum?
Yeah.
Very nice. Very good. Thank you, Farhana. Thank you, Jessica. Let's go to Ayan.
Hello.
Hi, Ayan. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm alright. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Have you been to a museum?
I think I have, but that was when I was like really small, so I can't remember anything.
When you were a wee kid?
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know, probably like 4 or 5, maybe.
Okay. And okay, fine. And you haven't been since, like in terms of school visits or anything?
I think I might have gone with primary school, but I can't remember. I think it was a museum in London somewhere, but I can't remember.
Have you, any of you been to the Wickham Chair Museum in High Wycombe? Yeah, Alexandra has. Ayan, have you?
Actually, I don't know, I've forgotten.
No, not to worry. Well, there's your opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to Omiza.
Hello,
Hi, Omiza. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And tell us about your experience.
I've been to the Chair Museum with my auntie. and I've been to the Natural History Museum with my family and some family friends, and I've also been to the RAF Museum.
Very good. And which one did you like the best?
I think I liked all of them really. They were quite fun.
Very good. Did you have to pay for any of them, or are they all free?
The Chair Museum was free. The RAF one was a school trip, and I can't remember about the Natural History Museum because it was quite a while ago.
Sure. Natural History Museum is free, by the way. And that's the biggest museum in this country. So well done. Good experience. And let's quickly go to Aurora as well, and Elena. Aurora.
Hi.
Hi there. What's your experience like?
I think I went to the Natural History Museum and the Chair Museum thing, but it was in year 6, but I don't remember anything.
It was so exciting that you can't remember anything, hey? Okay, good. Let's just quickly cross over to Elena. Elena, how about yourself?
We went to the Natural History Museum twice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Twice. And was that through school?
No, just as a family.
Oh, really? Okay, that's very good.
Yeah.
Was there anything in particular in the Natural History Museum that you remembered?
Yeah, I remember like pretty much all of it. Because we went and walked around the whole museum. Yeah, my favorite bit was probably like natural and extreme weather, like where there was volcano eruptions and you could like feel earthquakes. It's quite fun.
Very good. Sounds good, Elena. Thank you. Let's go to Said quickly at the end.
I think I went to the Chair Museum in year 4 or 3.
Okay. Yeah, good. And how was it?
It was I think it was quite good. It's a bit hard to remember it.
Sure. Very good. Thank you, Said. And let's just go to Mide.
Hello.
Hi, Mide.
I've been, but I went on a school trip.
That's good. Can you remember where you went?
I know it was a museum in London, but I can't remember what it was called.
Okay. Very good. Well, you've been, so that's good. Let's go to Alexandra very quickly. Thank you, Mide.
Yeah, I've been to the Wickham Chair Museum once with my school, and then 2 more times with family and friends. And I've been to many more museums, but some of them were in different countries, and I don't really remember any of them. So.
Which countries did you go to for the museum?
Armenia, I think Lithuania.
Yeah.
Where else? I don't really remember because it's so long ago.
Sure. Well, Armenia and did you say Lithuania?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very good. Well done. So you got some extra scope and experience of history in some other countries apart from the UK. So that's good. Well done. Now I'll give you an example. My own kids have been to Wickham Chair Museum a number of times, because the Wickham Chair Museum, even though you might think to yourself, how many times can I go there to see the same old furniture? But remember, High Wycombe as a place has a lot of history when it comes to furniture, because it was one of the furniture making hubs of the country for many, many years. And it had lots of big factories and showrooms where people from all around the country and the world would used to come just to look at brand new furniture and buy exotic furniture, modern furniture at the time. But they run a lot of events for kids, mostly primary school kids, just to attract them to the museum, because it's free and it's funded by the council in this case. the Natural History Museum in London, which is one of the biggest museums of the world, has certain exhibits throughout the year. So I remember a couple of years ago, they had the exhibit of the Egyptians, the pyramids and the mummies, and they specially actually flew them all the way from Egypt to London for tourists so that Europeans and people from this country could take advantage of that, because it's too difficult to always go to Egypt to see something like this. So a lot of the museums actually rent out exhibits, and it does cost them a lot of money, just to drive in more traffic, more tourists, more people. And it's really, really good fun. So a museum is supposed to be educational, whether it's to do with wildlife, whether it's to do with nature, whether it's to do with art, whether it's to do with historical fossils and archaeology, whether it's to do with certain time frames of the past where you had certain empires, such as the Saxons, such as the Vikings, such as the Egyptians, such as the Romans, you know, and such as the South Americans and that, Native Americans and so on. So it's good, and it just means that you should keep your, you know, mind open to these things. Yeah, sometimes you may feel it's boring and it's not of much interest, but the educational value that you can get out is fantastic. Now, instead of just following these questions, which I know most of you have done, let's have a bit of a debate for the last 15 minutes as to which side would you go. But before we do that, in fact, let me just quickly go to Meda, who wants to contribute as well.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi there. Go ahead, Meda.
I've been to, I can't remember when it was, but I think I can't remember which year it was, but I remember going with the school with the mummies or something, because we went to one where like they were doing mummies, and then I also went to the Natural History Museum in London with my dad, and then also I went for my birthday, and we went to the Triangle Museum with the glass.
Oh, right, okay.
Don't know what it's called. And then also I've been to one in Spain, Tenerife, Lithuania, and I think it was Spain again.
Did you bump into Alexandra when you went to the Lithuania?
No, it was at different times, I think, but we did go to Wickham Chair Museum together.
Okay, that's very good. So you've been to quite a few museums in different countries. It's a really good experience. Well done. Was there a certain highlight that you remember?
The Paris one, because it was
very good, very good. Well done.
and it
Good
was
girl.
really, we got to see the Mona Lisa.
Sure. You're just cutting out there, Meda. I lost you there for the last few seconds, but yeah, thanks for that contribution, Meda. Thank you so much. Now, while you're here, I'm just going to ask you this open question very quickly. So let me just unmute you again. So, in terms of museums, do you think they should be free or not, and why or why not?
Sometimes when they have special events, you should pay for them, but not too much money. But on normal, regular events, they should be free.
Okay, so you trying to go with both arguments there, but which one is more stronger for you?
Free.
Why?
Because that will attract more people, and the country's tourism might rise up because of the free museums.
Okay, very good. Anything else you want to add, Meda?
No.
Okay, good. So Meda says that they should be free because the level of tourism will increase to this country if the museums are free. Okay, let's go to Barbara.
Hello?
Hi, Barbara. Do you think the museum should be free for everyone to use, or do you think museums must be paid for by everyone that uses them? And why or why not?
I'd say they should be free because if museums are free, it'll be a really good way to educate yourself. More people will want to go there. Also, yeah, so the museum will be open to all sorts of people, and then like you won't have to pay to enter the museum, as well as like, you know, if you want to buy some accessories or something like that.
Okay, good. So you think the museum should be free?
Yeah.
Because it'll drive more traffic and more people, and it's educational as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Well done. Thank you. And let's quickly go to Sahil. Sahil, are you there? Can you hear me? Okay, I'll come back to you in a minute. And give me, somebody have an argument for me why museums should not be free. This is like an open question. Let's go to Ayan.
Probably because then they can put money into schools and old people's homes and stuff like that.
Okay, so if the museums are not free, so the museums charge for coming into the museum, so you mean the government will have more money to spend on other important services, is that what you mean?
Yeah, because then, like, as you said before about the taxes, they don't really get much compared to what they spend.
Right. And do you think that okay, that's good information. And your personal opinion, where does it go? Which way?
I would probably say that I would choose the museum to be free, because then, like as it said in the text, 4 people can go there and all of that stuff. You have to pay for it.
Okay, well done, Ayan. Thank you so much. And let's go to Jessica. Hi, Jessica. So which way do you think, Jessica, your personal opinion takes you? Do you think they should be free, or do you think the museum should charge, and the reasons behind it, please?
The museum should be free because some people can't afford to pay for a museum, and more people can come down.
Yeah, so you mean if they were free, then more people would come?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And do you have any other arguments why, or reasons why they should be free? Anything at all? Who will it benefit if the museums are free? What type of people will it benefit the most? Can you say that again? Sorry, I can't hear you. Type it out for me, I can't hear you properly. Tourists, okay, good, got you. Also, school children, when they're growing up, very valuable for school kids. Because going to a museum opens up their horizons a bit as well. Shows them things that they've never seen before. And even if they've seen it before, they've probably seen it on TV. But when you go and see it in real life, like for example, when you go into the Natural History Museum, what do you actually see straight away? You see a large fossilized structure. Well, it used to be a blue whale. There was a dinosaur once as well, dinosaur fossil, huge. And I'm not sure what they've got there now, because it's been a long time since I've been there. So good, thank you, Jessica. Let's go to Farhana. Hi, Farhana.
Hello.
Hi there. What do you think? Which way would you go?
I think museum museums should be free.
And why do you think so?
So then people can get educated.
Good. Do you think that's important?
Yeah.
Why?
Because if they get educated, then they'll get better jobs.
Good. And anything else? So they can, when they go into a museum, they could find something that probably interests them. They may even feel like going into a certain field in the future. Maybe they could even specialize in history, do a degree maybe later on at university and get a job. So yeah, that makes sense to me. Well done, Prahana. Let's go to Elena.
My personal opinion was that they should be free because it just attracts more people and it just opens their mind a bit. And they
Did you say attract small people?
Yeah.
What do you mean by small people?
No, more people.
More people, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. And so you're saying that they should be free?
Yeah.
Okay. But you know, anything in the world, if it's free, you're going to get lots of people, aren't you?
Yeah.
And what about the opposite argument? Let's say, for example, if you were to charge for museums. I mean,
I do kind of agree with that.
That you should charge?
Yeah, because I mean, it says in that passage that some people who, like, I think it said pensioners, I'm not sure, but it said some people could go free, like people who can't afford it.
That's true. So you could charge for museums, but you could make it free for pensioners at pension age, which means like 65, 66 plus.
Yeah.
They could go for free, or maybe say kids less than 5 years or 6 years of age, they could go for free.
Yeah.
Or school children, if they were to go to these museums from their schools, it could be free for them as well. But everybody else who's working and who's earning money, they should contribute a little bit, possibly. So yeah, both the arguments kind of see fit. Do you think it's more important to have museums free, or do you think there are more important services in this country that should be provided for free?
There are more important services.
Such as?
Healthcare, education, like schools. Because at schools, they could just teach them everything that you get in museums. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well done, Elena. So we're trying to open up our minds a little bit, just open up our horizons, think deeply about these topics and these issues. Think about something, just stretch your mind a little bit and think about something that possibly you thought you haven't thought about before. Let's just give you some opinions. So Aura says that I think the museum should be free as people who are poorer may not have the chance to go to places like theme parks. So if museums are free, kids, families who struggle, who can't afford a theme park can have a nice day out without spending their hard-earned money. That's a good reason. Theme parks are very expensive, aren't they? Very expensive. So if you were to take a family of, let's say, 4 people or 5 people to a theme park, you'll be spending probably more than 100, 200 pounds. Whereas a museum is free, and the families that can't afford expensive theme parks can actually take their kids to a museum, and that's a very good argument, Ara. Thank you. On the other hand, people should pay for museums because if the museum does not get any money, there will be no more interesting exhibits, as the museums will not be able to afford the new exhibits. That's a good argument as well. So for example, if museums are just relying on government handouts, there's only a certain amount of money they're probably going to get paid, which means that they can't always get the most expensive artifacts and exhibits. So richer museums, such as, for example, like in California or New York or Toronto in Canada, could probably afford more expensive exhibits, and they could also probably attract more people. So pretty good, good argument. So well done. So the whole point of having this debate is to actually think deeply about things. Think about things that you probably don't think about every single day, because when it comes to writing your opinion, now your opinions are your opinions, but sometimes you have to weigh your opinions up. You have to expand on your ideas. You have to show clarity and reasoning. And you have to back up your opinions with certain answers. Now, it doesn't mean to say that you agree or disagree. That's not the case here. Whether you're on one side or the other, that's not what we're talking about here. We're trying to weigh up our opinions, first of all, as many opinions and reasons that we can get on both sides of the argument. And then we weigh up that evidence at the end in our conclusion, and then we decide with a personal opinion which way you're going to go. So if you ever get asked a question with a lot of understanding and reasoning behind it, just take some time out. All right, this world that we live in right now, everybody's in a rush. You don't always have to be in a rush to do things. Take some time out and be mindful and think about ideas on both sides of the equation, both sides of the argument, and then weigh up your options and then decide which way you're going to go. All right, that's what this is all about. It's about making sure we go further deep into our reasoning and our arguments, and then we can show clarity maybe in classwork and in exam. And then finally, once we weigh up our options and we've showed both sides of the arguments, then we can personally decide which way we prefer or we don't prefer. Okay. In my personal opinion, I think that museums should be free because a lot of them are government owned or owned by the National Trust. I think educational is very, very important. I worry that if a lot of big museums were starting to charge, that will have a massive impact on footfall, which means there will be less and less people actually going to museums, especially from our country. So you may have quite a few tourists that will still go because they're coming to actually see places and hear and view places, but local population, for the local population that lives in this country, it's probably more important to visit museums than people that are coming from other countries, because we have this service on our doorsteps, and I think we should make the most of this service and free service that we've got available. That's my personal opinion, and I do think that the government should fund it. I think that museums can also have like charity events whereby they can actually raise money for their exhibits. They can raise money for their museums. That's another possible way of whereby they can actually raise money. And there are lots of rich people out there in the world who'd be very happy to donate money to certain museums as well for the good work that they're doing. So that could also be another option as well. But for school kids, going to a museum, I personally feel, from my viewpoint, is quite essential. And again, my viewpoint, just because it's my viewpoint and I'm your teacher, doesn't mean to say that my viewpoint is correct. It's only my personal opinion. Remember, these are all personal opinions. We have our opinions, and then we can set them out, and there's for others to decide if you're right or not, or if you agree or disagree. Okay? So don't be scared of sharing your opinion about any topic, especially when it's educational like this. Okay? Feel free to contribute. Be a bit more confident to contribute. Don't feel like your arguments or your opinions may be wrong or somebody may laugh at them. No, that's not the case. everybody has different opinions. So if your opinion might matter to a lot of other people as well. Okay, so well done, good. And we'll meet up again on this coming Monday, of which we will be going into more detail on some maths as well. All right, hope you enjoyed this class. Look after yourselves, take care. I've just got another class to take now. Enjoy the weather while it lasts. I think it was quite sunny today, wasn't it? So good. Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.